most people abroad, especially men, at a certain age, they tell me that they all the doctors all said that they have, this is how they say, that they have high blood pressure. Why is that?
Am I allowed to name drop people?
Yeah, you can drop names
I
if
don't even
it's
know who watches and who doesn't watch this thing, who doesn't watch our show. But lately on Instagram, I've been for some reason my feeds keep coming across this gentleman. Is it Cubana chief priest? What's the other one? The one that is a little bit more robust.
yeah, that's the chief priest. The other one
Cubana
is
chief,
Ubi
yeah.
Cubana. Yeah, the other one the chief
Yes,
priest.
Cubana chief priest. So I saw Cubana chief priest and I was like, it's almost like this guy is getting
Bigger.
bigger and bigger, and he's walking around with people, and some of those people are probably similar. And I'm like, how is this guy even able to, you know, walk around without feeling like, winded, like you have to, that you're not catching your breath and things like that. And then I now saw this new trend on IG. Not really a trend, but if you follow some of the Igbo Twitter space, you see videos like if girls want to marry an Igbo man that is rich, they have to find the one that has big belly and has a stash of money bag or purse underneath their armpits. And I'm like, these trends are not really helpful. But yeah, as one gets older, naturally, it doesn't matter how healthy you are. There are certain changes in your body that would increase your chances of having high blood pressure. I think to explain it in simple terms, in your body you have your heart and you have multiple organs, right? There are organs that are much further away from the heart. There are organs that are closer to the heart, right? And the heart pumps and it generates some level of push. And the bigger you are, the taller you are, the more surface area your body has. And so if someone is smaller, your heart has to work less hard. It's easier for the heart to pump blood to reach those areas. But if you're huge, you have all these fats and things like that, the body still has to do the same level of work to be able to send blood to all those places. And so what ends up happening is the heart has to beat faster and stronger. And when it beats harder and stronger, it's still able to provide oxygen and blood to those faraway places, right? And to all those extra fats that you have. But guess what the side effect is? Remember, the heart is a muscle. Most people don't know this. If you're walking your arm out all the time doing curls, like you are contracting and relaxing your bicep muscles in the front, right, and the triceps at the back, what ends up happening is, what do? You blow up, right? So the way if you don't have to carry a lot of weight on your hand, there's no need for the muscle to expand, right? So the body's way of compensating for all that hard work is to expand and grow big, and the muscle gets bigger and bigger. Same thing happens in heart. While it is awesome for you to have bigger chest muscle, bigger hand muscle, it is a horrible thing for you to have thicker heart muscle. Because guess what? While the heart is beating and it's sending blood to all parts of your body, the heart itself also needs blood supply, right? And the blood vessels or the channels that supply the heart itself with blood are very, very thin. So when your heart beats and pushes out blood, right, that is when the rest of the body gets to enjoy that nourishment. But the heart is tight. It doesn't take any nourishment. It is actually when the heart relaxes for a brief few seconds that it's able to get some of those blood flow to regurgitate back and feed it. Imagine if the heart is thick, it's going to compress some of those vessels, right? That makes it tougher for the heart to be able to accept. It's just me trying to explain it in a very simplistic manner. That is actually when you allow the heart to relax and accept blood to nourish itself. If the heart if it's very thick, it is not able to efficiently feed itself. And at some point, when your heart is beating so fast, it craps out and you have what is called a heart attack. Also, those blood vessels in the heart are already very thin. The ones that are in your rest of the body are also To some extent, there are bigger caliber vessels, there are smaller caliber vessels. Imagine you're eating all this bobby and all these fats, right? Guess what? Just like you have a pipe that can block because it has all this junk inside, the same thing. The blood vessels that are in the body, the ones that are in the heart, will start to have all those, for lack of a better word, all those nyama nyama, right? Guess what? The ones that are going to block easily are the ones that are very thin. The bigger blood vessels, which is the one that goes from the groin all the way to the heart, it's called the aorta. That is one of the biggest one. Even though it has all those nyama nyama, it's going to take a very long time for it to block. It's very rare for it to block. But the ones that are in your heart, remember, they're very thin and they get fed when your heart relaxes. If you have all those nyama nyama, it blocks very easily. That's what we call coronary artery disease, right? Or some doctors will say you have what is called a calcium building up in those blood vessels. You don't want those blood vessels in the heart to narrow, which is why if someone gets older, you always check their cholesterol to see if they have a lot of cholesterol. Think of cholesterol as when you boil meat, right? And you leave it to cool. When it cools in the morning, all the fats will settle at the top, right? But if you decide to just take the broth like that, you don't realize you're taking a lot of fats. When you allow it to cool, all those fats will condense and come to the top and you can take it off. Think of your blood like that. The blood is flowing at a particular speed, but it also has fats inside, right? But guess what? Every once in a while, some of those fats will start to condense a little bit. And like any natural pathway, the higher the blood pressure is, some of the lining of the blood vessels will start to tear a little bit, right? And when it starts to tear, if your blood is very thick and sluggish and very slimy, has a lot of fat, some of those fats will start to go into some of those tears. That is how you start to build what we call plaque. And over time, sometimes the plaque starts to harden and someone has what we call atherosclerotic disease, which means buildup of fat in the blood vessels. And guess what? The narrower blood vessels suffer more. So any organ that has narrower blood vessels probably feel the effect of the high cholesterol early and in a few years compared to the organs that have very big blood vessels, which is why checking your blood pressure is important, because guess what? The higher the blood pressure, the more these shear force, what we call shear forces on the blood vessels, right? If you have excellent blood pressure, less shear forces. Secondly, if you have high cholesterol, it's easy for it to start building up in those little potholes on the blood vessel, and they harden to form plaque. 3, if we decide to just take apart and say, okay, let's say you have normal cholesterol level, right? Guess what? I don't know if some of you have had a sugar syrup, right? If you put sugar on frying pan and fry it, right, it forms a what we call dextrose. It melts into this brown syrupy. Think of it as honey, right? Guess what? If you have high blood sugar, guess what? Over time, your blood will start to feel like that syrup. That syrup can also lead to the hardening of the blood vessels and cause atherosclerosis, which is why when someone has high blood sugar, but they don't have diabetes, you always caution them: eat less sugar, keep working out, and try to reduce your sugar level. After a certain critical level of sugar for a very prolonged period of time, somebody will now have what is called diabetes, which means now they are at increased risk of kidney damage, increased risk of worsening of atherosclerosis. Anything that hardens the blood vessel, anything that affects the blood vessels of the heart, those things are very critical when it comes to having stroke and having high blood pressure and having a heart